2 weeks until some pupils in England are due to go back to school. Parents and teachers demand more reassurances that classrooms will be safe.
We'll also be looking at transport. You should see many more staff at your local train station if more people than expected do travel to work.
Unions demand further safety measures as more building sites reopen.
Making it in the Premier League but struggling off the pitch. Former Manchester United player Luke Chadwick tells us how constant insults about the way he looked affected his mental health.
I wouldn't want to go out as always sort of looking at people. People knew I was, obviously, I played for Man United, and I always assumed that they'd be saying horrible things about me when potentially they probably weren't all the time.
And some of the warmest weather of the year so far is on its way this week, but it doesn't mean it's going to be sunny all the way, and it doesn't mean everyone will stay dry. I'll have all the details right here on Breakfast.
Meanwhile, the latest daily death toll was 170, the lowest figure since the day after the lockdown began on the 24th of March. However, numbers are typically lower at weekends. The total number of people who have died in the UK after testing positive for the virus is now 34,636.
A man has been interviewed by detectives for allegedly spitting at a railway worker who later died of coronavirus. Belly Mujinga fell ill shortly after the alleged incident at London's Victoria Station in March. British Transport Police say a 57-year-old man was interviewed under caution and that the investigation is ongoing. Right, shall we have a look at the papers?
Let's
This morning's The Times says it's unlikely that we'll be able to enjoy foreign holidays this summer unless we're willing to enter a 14-day quarantine on our return. According to the article, lorry drivers will make up the majority of those exempted from the new measure, which is due to begin next month.
The Telegraph leading on a study which claims coronavirus does not spread widely in schools. It found that 18 infected students and teachers across 15 schools only passed the virus on to 2 others.
The Daily Mail says half of all people in the UK could be vaccinated against the coronavirus if an Oxford University trial succeeds. It reports Business Secretary Alok Sharma's comments that 30 million doses could be made by September if the vaccine is shown to work. So we've talked about so many different things that people have been getting up to since lockdown, and this is a new one, on me anyway at least. Need a new hobby? Climbing the walls, but this is actually literally. Lots of climbing enthusiasts have set up DIY walls and obstacle courses in their homes and garages as part of a new home bouldering craze. I'd like to say don't try this at home, but they are obviously trying it at home. I do notice, though, that, for example, this person here who's got a proper, really sophisticated climbing wall, of course, has crash mats, and so do other people as well. But it's really interesting, isn't it? Professional and amateur climbers can be seen scaling walls, moving from room to room, and even upstairs, without touching the ground.
I don't think I'm built for climbing, Louise.
You might be. I don't know, but I'm not a climbing expert. I was due to learn how to do some bouldering, but I haven't learned, so I can't do it. Luckily, probably.
I think I've got big bones. I think that's my issue. Right, this is headline of the day. Prepare yourselves. Great granny raising funds for the NHS. She's knitting, and she's knitting the Nightingale Hospital.
Oh, look at that!
You see that? This is this lovely lady down here, Margaret Seaman, who lives in Norfolk. Apparently in Norfolk, she's known locally as Norfolk's knitting queen. And she's knitted various things in the past, all raising money for various charities. I believe she did the seafront, a Great Yarmouth seafront at one point, and she's hoping to raise £5,000 by doing this great knit. It's got 4 wards. She's working until midnight every night, apparently, to get this fitted. Good on her. Well done, Margaret Seaman, who's getting that together to raise money for the NHS.
Good morning. Before all of that, here's a summary of today's main stories from BBC News. The government has defended its plan to reopen primary schools in England in 2 weeks' time, insisting plans are in place to ensure the safety of teachers and pupils.
Ministers want children in reception, Year 1 and Year 6 to go back to school as part of the next step to ease the lockdown. But unions and some parents fear the move may cause a second spike in coronavirus cases.
Security guards will be on duty at some major railway stations this morning as more of us are expected to go to work following an easing of the coronavirus lockdown in England. Rail companies are planning to limit the number of passengers boarding trains, and some seats may be blocked off, We're still being advised to work from home if we can and to use public transport only if there's no alternative. The UK will move closer to a points-based immigration system today when a flagship bill is debated by MPs. But Labour says the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, should think again. The immigration bill would make it harder for workers described by Ms Patel as low-skilled to live in Britain. But Labour says it's lower-paid workers like carers and retail staff who've been keeping the country running during the current crisis.
The big surge, though, comes into Wednesday. High pressure moves its way eastwards, and in doing so, we're going to tap into the warmer air across continental Europe and clearer skies. So after some morning cloud, that cloud will start to dissipate, break up. Even in Scotland, Northern Ireland, a vastly brighter day to come on Wednesday. And with winds coming in from the south, we'll see those temperatures continue to rise. As I said, 27, 28 degrees across some parts of eastern England, 22 or 23 in the north of Scotland. But the end of the week, as I said, bit of uncertainty. Could see some thunderstorms around on Thursday, and then just watching what happens with this area of low pressure, exactly where it goes, because Dan and Louise, it could bring us quite a wet and windy end to the week, although not much rain on those parched gardens in the south. Back to you both.
OK, some interesting temperatures. Thank you very much for the moment, Matt. I'm just going to show you some heli-telly from East Croydon this morning. This is the platforms there, which you would expect at this time on a normal day to be absolutely packed. You can see lots of people obviously listening to that advice to try and avoid public transport. Been live at London Euston Station this morning as well with Tom Burridge, our transport correspondent, and that's a live shot from East Croydon this morning where, as you can see empty platforms.
Quite clearly also social distancing at this point being observed as well. We're speaking to Network Rail in the last few moments saying how many measures they've got in place, that there is one-way systems in place, lots of signage, and at the moment, it's definitely working.
It's very quiet, isn't it?
There, at least, isn't it?
Yeah. In Northern Ireland, garden centres and recycling facilities can reopen from today.
Testing for coronavirus is to be offered to all care home residents and staff in Northern Ireland. The announcement follows criticism of a mounting number of deaths in the sector. It's hoped the rollout of testing will be completed next month.